Are you worried at all about the health of the stock market because of all the retail trading going on? We have so many people entering the stock market. Maybe they know what they're doing, maybe they don't. But a lot of people are trading with leverage. I think we have the highest margin trading ever. And a lot of people are coming into the market with very high expectations, hoping to double their money in a very short amount of time. Is the stock market going to crash because of that?
Well, the market's always correct, and sometimes as much as 40%. I don't see that anytime soon because we have a very, very buoyant economy, and we're about to get, $1.9 trillion stimulus package, and now a rumor of a $3 trillion infrastructure package. That's a tremendous amount of stimulus. So, asset classes like stocks are likely to do well during that period. But there are times when markets do not do well, and you have to live through that. It doesn't bother me that, people are actively day trading. I have no problem with that. I think that, it's just bringing more people into the educational side of investing. And I'm not sure, that we're going to have a crash anytime soon. Nobody knows with certainty. But my point is, these are environments that are very good and very productive for stocks. And so my anticipation is they will tend to trend higher.
So what advice would you have for someone who is new into the workforce in their late 20s, early 30s? What should they be doing? Would you follow your mom's advice, your mother's advice of a 20% into the stock market, into an ETF, or what would you recommend?
Well, I have some basic rules. I always say this: never more than 5% into any one stock. So if you look at a portfolio, you never want one stock to represent more than 5% of it. You never want a sector like energy or technology to represent more than 20% of the portfolio. And have some allocation to fixed income. I'm currently 70% equities, 30% fixed income, because fixed income is very expensive these days, and I anticipate as interest rates go up, it won't do that well. But the point is, it provides stability. The whole idea of investing is diversification. You really want to be diversified. And so I use exchange traded funds for that. That works for me. People can pick their own stocks if they wish. But, there's all kinds of different philosophies. But at the end of the day, if you want to build a nest egg, you've got to have the discipline of diversification and monitor your portfolio so that no one position gets too big. That's what happens to people that really get blown up. They don't follow any diversification rules, and they end up with one or two stocks representing 40, 50, 60% of their net worth. And when they correct, they get killed.
Can somebody still follow the model today and become wealthy? I mean, we're in an environment where a lot of people, millennials especially, are having a tough time being able to pay their rent. They're having a tough time just being able to get by. How does someone who's now essentially living paycheck to paycheck start putting aside money to invest and become wealthy? Do these kind of rules of thumb still apply today?
They do, because the majority of people, and obviously there's exceptions to every rule, but the majority of people spend too much money on crap they don't need. I've noticed that for years. And so I'm very disciplined. I don't buy clothes I don't need, I don't wear. I learned that from my mother. I wear the same. I've got 25 of these suits, 25 of these ties, 25 of these shirts. I do a huge production run. This is my Shark Tank outfit. I also wear it all the time. It's sort of the same. I don't have to choose what I'm going to wear each day. I already know. And it sounds boring, but it really works for me, and I save a ton of money. And so, I'm still saving money when I can. I don't see any reason to waste it. So there's a lot of change in behavior to save money. I can guarantee you don't need to buy 3 coffees a day at $7 a coffee. That's a total waste of money. I see that all the time. Yeah. And people go out and pay $25 for lunch. How dumb is that? I mean, I don't do that. It offends me. It's bad karma to just waste money like that. So I'll bring some lunch with me. I can't stand spending $7 for something that cost 18 cents to make. That's so stupid.
Yeah, I think a lot of people look at America, United States, as one of the richest poor countries in the world so I'll give you an example. My grandparents from the state of Punjab, they were refugees because the state was severed and they lost their homes, they lost their family, they lost their land, they lost everything. And my grandfather came to his new home running with no shoes on. And so they were raised with the discipline of you don't need a bunch of stuff in order to survive. You kind of learn to live with very little. And so I was raised with them. And then when I was going to school, and just the basic things, like I would go to lunch with a brown bag, and I would make sure that I had to take my brown bag home the next day because I would use the brown bag for the whole semester. It's the little things that, we're in such a rich country where we don't realize that maybe we're being wasteful. And I think, is that, so it sounds like that's what you're saying is we're spending a lot of money on things we don't need. We have just so many luxuries, a higher standard of living, which is causing people to live broker.
Well, the average salary in America is about $56,000. And so there's no question in my mind you can cut 10% of your costs. You are wasting money on something. You're buying a third pair of jeans you don't need. You're buying a fifth pair of sneakers you don't need. You're buying some crap you don't need. Everybody buys crap because our whole society is designed to get you to spend money from the day you're born, but you don't need to. It's not necessary. In fact, less is more. There's something beautiful about having a minimalist life and having things that you really cherish. And that was also my mother's philosophy. She would save up for a whole year to buy a Chanel jacket and buy nothing else. And I mean, that was her whole thing. I want to own this jacket for the rest of my life. And when she passed away, there was a huge fight amongst the women in the family trying to get her collection of Chanel jackets, which she'd only buy one of every 2 years. But she bought the highest quality items and not a lot of them. That was her philosophy. And I think that really works.
So now it looks like, someone wants to become wealthy in this day and age. First thing you got to do is you got to cut some of the expenses. Second, continue investing your money just like your mother told you to do, your mother did, and like how you said. The third thing is now, what about in terms of making money? Because you built your wealth as an entrepreneur. And obviously now things are very different because we're in a very technological age. If you were stripped of everything, all of your money today, your fame, what would you do to rebuild your wealth?
I would go back to what I know. And, I'm a salesman. I'm a marketing person. I've been my whole life. I would go back and find a product or service or a company that required a good salesperson, and I would go work. I mean, that's what I'm used to. I mean, I've been working, I took some time off right after the liquidity event for the learning company, but I went right back to work and never stopped. And today, I have a very, very busy schedule doing a whole wide range of things, but there are things I want to do that I really enjoy doing. But I'm basically at my core a marketing and sales person. So that's what I would rely on. I think those are the hardest jobs in the world because salesmen are the only people, and saleswomen too, that start at zero each month and have to build back their business. You always start the next month at zero. And then you have to go sell again. And you can't even have a company without a great salesperson. You have to sell, sell, sell. That's how it works.
What about cryptocurrency? A lot of people are now jumping into cryptocurrency. Do you think that cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, is the future? Is that a way for someone to now build wealth quickly?
Well, it is, but it's highly valued now. I have a 3% allocation in Bitcoin in my own portfolio. I have 5% weighting in gold. So I look at it as a property, and it's performed very, very well. But the point is, Bitcoin it's a very, very early nascent asset class, a lot of issues with it. The one that's cropping up its head right now that people should be, concerned about is institutional clients do not want to own Bitcoin mined using coal to burn for electricity. And that kind of defines much of how Bitcoin is mined, particularly in countries like China, where, they're not compliant on human rights issues. They're not compliant around tariffs. They've got all kinds of issues there. And so there may be a premium coming into this market where original virgin coin that's not mined using coal, that's mined sustainably with hydroelectric or some other form of sustainable energy are going to be worth more than the blood coin mined in China, which is where the majority of coin to date have come from.
I also see that now you've also jumped onto YouTube. Welcome to YouTube. Is that a feasible way, do you think, for now someone who's looking for a creative way to make money to do that?
I think so. I think everybody that wants to play as an entrepreneur going forward after this pandemic has got to have a direct-to-consumer digital strategy. I mean, even if you're just B2B, business to business, you still need a digital strategy. The whole world has pivoted to using technology to communicate with each other and sell products and services. And so you're going to have to learn how to use social media, how to actually build websites or at least manage that process so that you get something very compelling for people to see your product and service and buy it direct from you. That's the new model. All the companies that I'm invested in that survived to figure that out. And so that's a new change in the American economy. And also, there's no barriers to entry for that. So you're going to have lots of competition from Mumbai, Shanghai, you name it. If you're not willing to work 25 hours a day, 8 days a week, they are, and they'll kick your butt.
Yeah, that's the epitome of an entrepreneur right there, right? You have to be willing to work all the time.
Yeah.
So you now have been investing in dozens of companies on Shark Tank. How many companies do you now have an ownership or stake in?
Currently, the portfolio is about 36.
So how do you manage a portfolio of companies that large?
We use a very simple method. We track sales and cash flow because they're private companies. There's no share price to track. We look at discounted free cash flow. That's how we manage the portfolio. And we monitor, we have a weekly call amongst the management team of OLeary Ventures every Tuesday morning, had it this morning. And we go right through our portfolio, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because at any one time of the portfolio that big, there's euphoric outcomes occurring and also disasters happening. It's like a giant passion play. It's happening all day long. I'm getting calls of, look, somebody wants to buy our company, and on the other half, we're going bankrupt. It's sort of, that's the nature of the ebb and flow of the volatility involved in owning so many companies in so many different sectors. But, overall, it's a very successful group of entrepreneurs. They use the Shark Tank platform to reduce their customer acquisition costs, which is really magic. My job as sort of an investor is to let the world know that I've made this investment choice. I have millions of followers on social media. It usually helps the company raise more money. It works in a big symbiotic relationship, and we add a lot of value to these companies, and we expect to be paid for it.
So I think that the trend of having multiple streams of income now, because now you're invested in dozens of companies, and each one of these companies are now paying you. That's a very attractive thing. I mean, everybody loves the idea of multiple streams of income. Obviously, one way you can do that is through dividends. But because of Shark Tank, I think a lot of people want to be sharks. They want to be like you. What do I need, or what does somebody need to be a shark, maybe on a smaller scale? Like, is there like a certain amount of capital somebody needs, or how can somebody start doing what you do?
I have a bit of an advantage because companies approach me all the time and say, look, would you like to invest in this next round? And I say, I have, your round means nothing to me. I know what I bring in value. I know what happens when I invest in companies. I know what I can do to get your message out and help you sell product, but I don't do that for free. So if you want me to be an investor, let's negotiate a very attractive package that aligns my interests with yours. Now that may be through royalties or warrants or convertible debentures or straight equity or straight debt. There's a wide range of different outcomes and structures, but I don't want to be viewed as just another investor because I'm not. And it may sound arrogant, but the facts are I can change a company's trajectory just using my team and my millions of followers to get the message out there, not just domestically, but globally. And so, I'm very, very selective on which companies I invest in. I want to be able to take it from this platform to this one, and everybody benefits from that, including me. And as a result, I don't negotiate too much. I say, this is what I think I'm worth. And if you don't want to pay that, I'm okay with it. I'm just going to move on to the next opportunity. And that sort of may sound arrogant, but my best salespeople are the men and women, my CEOs. When someone comes to me and says, look, we'd like to make you an offer to invest, I say, why don't you just talk to some of my CEOs and see what value I bring? And then you decide if my offer is too rich or you don't want to do it. But I've got a great team I work with. I've been doing this for almost 20 years. I have some great outcomes, I have some big disasters. I mean, when you have a portfolio that large, you're going to have a lot of bad outcomes, but you're also going to get a few that are just stratospheric, huge hits. And luckily, those pay for all your mistakes. That's, again, the idea of diversification. And so, every day I'm examining deals. I look at sometimes 2 or 3 a day, as I did today. And, most of them we don't do because they don't fit. But when we find something interesting, we get right into it and we try and come to an arrangement with the CEO and put them into our portfolio and do everything we can to explode their business.
It's interesting. You mentioned your mom and the importance of dividends to your mom. Anybody who watches Shark Tank knows how much you like royalties. Is that partially influenced because of your mom, or is there a different reason why you are such a big fan of getting royalties out of your deals?
No, it's probably again from my mother. She always said, you need to get paid while you wait. That was her mantra. Get paid while you wait, because either she owned a stock with dividends or she owned a bond with interest. Getting paid while you wait was her whole thing, and never Never spend the principal, just the interest. That was the other lesson she taught me. So my portfolio is like a chicken on a spit dripping cash. Everything pays me something each month. And that's how, we perform at the operating company. We look at our cash flows every single week. It works for me. Remember, in venture investing, it's not return on capital that matters. What matters is return of capital. You haven't made a dime until you get your principal back in a venture investment. And that's very hard to do. So if I use a royalty, great. People say to me, oh, royalty, why don't you just do equity? Because a royalty is even better than equity. When the company gets sold, the acquirer, if I have a perpetual royalty on board, comes to me last and says, how do we buy out this royalty, or how do we incentivize you to work for us going forward and continue the royalty? Both outcomes I really like. But I'm staying in the game. Cash is flowing. As I always like to say, what matters in business is cash flow. Just say it like that. Cash flow. That's what matters. Cash flow, exactly. If you don't have any cash flow, it's no go. You're not going to make any money. It's that simple.